It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Mexico. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. This episode covers Mexico's players. Just a note on where we're at in our mediacasts. Series 21 to 27 dealt with World Cup 2026 qualifying. Series 21, for example, is covering the Asian region, and we actually did preview the preliminary round there. That was round 1 of 3. We were hoping to do more previewing for World Cup 2026, but life got busy. Nevertheless, we still have hopes of covering it, but we'll now have to do it mostly through reviews rather than previews. So we did produce a past, present, and future media cast in the spring of 2024, and it's actually still mostly relevant. The dates are off a bit by now, but an important part is that it outlines the World Cup 2026 qualifying procedure in each region. And we're going to add a link to that. I think it's about 10-minute video to the media cast in this show notes. And then we hope to do review media cast, kind of updating what happened through that qualifying. So we will come back to World Cup 2026 qualifying. But we'll do that after our current focus, which is the 2025 Gold Cup here, and this episode on Mexico's players. So we're doing this media cast in 2 parts. Part 1 here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and we categorize them into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. We'll go into more detail for the players that we think likely to reach the final squad, and less detail, perhaps even just the names of players we think unlikely to get there. Part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected, and we expect that to be in early June. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we created here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections. So this episode has 3 sections. In section 1, we're going to look at some general information on the team. Section 2 is the main part where we cover the candidates in each position, again in terms of their likeliness of making it. And in section 3, we summarize and conclude, and we'll have a special note on injuries that we are keeping an eye on. Let's begin then to section 1. Oh, I've just got to get my thing going. And we're going to begin with a few things, comments on the squad, recent games, formation, and upcoming games. So for the squad, we're going to start with big names that have retired from the squad. Not since the 2024 Copa America, but we're going back to the 2023 Gold Cup. We'll keep it fairly brief here and maybe give a bit more detail when we reach the position in section 2. So actually, really, for Mexico, no big retirements. They did have quite a few retiring prior to the 2023 Gold Cup. I think the only one we're going to mention here is the manager, Jaime Lozano, who managed them through the 2023 Gold Cup and the 2024 Copa America, but has been replaced. So we'll get to that fairly quickly because the manager is the first section of section 2. Okay, let's go to recent games. So for Mexico, well, for all teams, we're going to look at the games in the build-up to the Cup for a couple of reasons. One is for examining the participation of players. And we're going to go back to the beginning of 2024 for that up until their recent games until the end of March. So Mexico played, I think it was, I should have, I forgot to write that down. Anyway, they played 15 games over that period from the beginning of 2024. And so when we look at player participation, we'll tell you how many of those 15 games they were involved in and in what capacity. We're also going to talk about the positions when we get to section 2. And for that, we're going to go back a little farther, back to the last Gold Cup in 2023. So for that, I believe they played 21 games. We're going to kind of outline those games here. So since then, the 2023 Gold Cup, Mexico played 6 games in the 2023 Gold Cup. They reached the final there. So that was in June 2023. After that, while the kind of lesser teams in the region were participating in the CONCACAF Nations League, the top teams there didn't have to go through the group stage of that. So instead, Mexico played some friendlies in the fall of 2023. And I should say that they used their first team in the September and October games, but an experimental team in the November, not in the November, in the December game. So we're including December in that batch of teams. I just accidentally said November there, but in fact, they had more important business in November. It was the 2023-24 Nations League finals. I say National League. It should be Nations League there on the graphic if you're watching YouTube. And the quarterfinals for that were in November 2023. And the semi-final and final stage in March 2024. So 4 games for Mexico in that period. Then we go to May and June 2024. In May, then, some pre-Copa America friendlies, 3 of them, in fact, for Mexico. They used experimental teams in the first 2 games there, but in the game directly before the Cup, which was against Brazil, they fielded their first team squad for that one, and then went on to play the Copa America in 2024. They were knocked out in the group stage there, so just 3 games in June 2024 there. Okay. After that, once again, they did not have to did not have to play the Nations League group stage games, which most other teams in the region were doing. Instead, they just played some friendlies again in the fall of 2024. That would be September and October. In January of 2025, just before I get to the last section, in November and March, they played a couple of friendlies. They played against a club team from Argentina and a club team from Mexico, largely experimental squads in that one. So we're basically going to ignore it in this podcast because it doesn't really give us much information about what we're doing, which is trying to predict the players for the upcoming Cup. Okay, finally we have November 2024 and March 2025, and just like the year previous, that was the quarterfinals of the Nations League finals in November of 2024, and then the final and semi-final, the semi-final and final in March of 2025. We're not particularly interested in results here, but Mexico is coming in off a good result there, having won in the final, so champions of the Nations League there. Let's take a look at formations, and we'll try to avoid going into too much detail here. For Mexico, it's pretty simple, actually. About 80% of the time, they use one of the following 2 formations, either a 4-2-3-1 formation or a 4-3-3 formation. So actually, in 12 of the 25 games that we're looking at, that's 48%, so almost half. they used the 4-2-3-1 formation, and in a third of the games, 32%, the 4-3-3 formation. So you'll see that is always four at the back. So they very rarely play the three-man defense. In fact, only in one of the 25 games did they use that three-man defensive formation. That was against Canada in the semi-final of the 2025 Nations League finals there. So always four at the back during this period for Mexico, and then the midfield formation and forward formation a little different, but usually a centre forward there too. So either alone or in a 4-3-3 formation there. So I think that's enough said about that. Let's move on. I just need to cough here. Just give me a second. All right, I am de-coughed. Finally, we will take a look at their upcoming games. So just prior to the Cup, which I believe begins on June 14th, they have a couple of friendlies or warm-up games, we'll say. Both of them are in the USA, but they're not against CONCACAF teams. The first one on June 7th is against Switzerland, and the second on June 10th against Turkey. So those will be their warm-up games. There may be one added. That's possible. I'd be a bit surprised, though, unless they perhaps added one before June 7th. All right, that's the end of part one. And now we move on to, or section one, now we move on to section two, which is the main business of our media cast here. And we're going to start with the kind of managerial situation there. Without going back too far, we did note that Jaime Lozano is out. Okay, and so the new manager is Javier Aguirre in his third stint with Mexico. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Javier Aguirre there. His third stint with Mexico since 2024, and he has coached clubs and countries. He was manager of Japan's national team in 2014 and 15, and Egypt's national team, although they didn't reach a tournament under him. That was in 2018 and 19. His other stints with Mexico were the first one in 2001 and 2, and the second one in 2009 and 10. So he's coming back after a 14-year absence, Javier Aguirre. And yes, we'll just mention the name of Jaime Lozano there, and then finish with a kind of a little history or summary of the position, as it were. So Lozano came in as the interim manager in 2023. They had gone through a couple of managers prior to that. He stabilized things a little bit. He came in as the interim manager and led them to a title win in the 2023 Gold Cup. So after the tournament, they kept him as manager, and he led them through the 2024 Copa America. That was a bit of a disaster, though. They came in as the pot one team, but it was a group stage exit, so a bit embarrassing for Mexico, who have often done well when invited to the Copa America, and Lozano was dismissed. So Javier Aguirre came in for his third stint as Mexico manager there, and he led them to the Nations League 2024-25 title, winning that recently in March 2025. And so he continues on as manager for the 2025 Gold Cup. We don't see him being replaced prior to the Cup. All right, let's move on to players and goalkeepers. And so let's introduce the candidates. We'll just go through the names first, and then go back and look at the major candidates. So we have a definite candidate in Luis Malagón. And we have a likely candidate in Raúl Rangel. And then, interestingly, a still possible candidate in veteran Guillermo Ochoa. So he's still in the picture a bit. We'll get to that. But alongside of him are two other possible candidates, Julio Gonzalez and Carlos Moreno. And we'll just, from this point on, players below the level if possible, we'll usually just mention their name or perhaps a little bit about them. But Carlos Acevedo is a possible but unlikely candidate. And he was on the roster for the 2024 Copa America there, one of the backup keepers, and that was his first tournament. And that's as much as we'll say about him. But let's go back and look at the more likely candidates. So Luis Magalon is 28 years old, with 9 caps for the national team since 2023. And I'll just say this here and once. My ages are going to be off by a year if the player was born between January and well, I'm doing this on May 3rd. So if they were born basically in that part of the year, January to May, but we will give more accurate ages for the players who were selected in part 2. Anyway, Luis Malagon, he plays for Club America in Mexico since 2023 and Necaxa before that. And he was the backup keeper in the 2023 Gold Cup, but not selected for the 2024 Copa America, surprisingly. Since the beginning of 2024, he started 5 of their 15 games, and he was on the bench for 5 and not selected for 5 matches. So Luis Malagon looking like the most likely candidate for selection here, despite not being part of the Copa America 2024 team. We only have one candidate at the likely level also. That is Raul Rangel, and he is 25 years old with 2 caps for Mexico since 2024. He plays for Guadalajara in Mexico since 2020, and he was on the roster for the 2024 Copa America there, a backup keeper though. And he started 2 of their, well, his first cap was actually in June 2024, so just before the Copa America there. And since then, he started 2 of the remaining 12 games, but he was on the bench for all 10 others, which is why we have him as a likely candidate here. Possible candidates become more interesting. Guillermo Ochoa, it would probably take me 15 minutes or so to describe his career, so I'll just keep it short here. He is 40 years old now with 152 caps for the national team since 2005. And he's currently playing for a small team in Portugal, fairly small team, AVS. I got to say, I'm not familiar with it since 2024. And before that, he was with Salernitana in Italy for a couple of years. So he has been with fairly small teams, probably most famously played with Standard Liège in Belgium and Club America in Mexico. I'm going into too much detail, though. Anyway, he's been part of tournaments ever since the 2004 Olympics, actually, and the 2005 Gold Cup, and usually a starter in those tournaments. However, the 2021 Gold Cup, he did not participate in. He was working for the Olympic squad instead. And the 2024 Copa America, also not a part of. So kind of definitely drifting off the team, which makes sense given his age. However, Ochoa returned after a 7-month absence in October of 2024, and he started 1 of their remaining 5 games and was on the bench for 2 others, but then not selected for the last 2 matches. Those would be the semi-final and final of the Nations League. So a bit up in the air as to whether he is still in the picture or not. We'll have to wait for part 2 in a month or so to know that. The second possible candidate is Julio Gonzalez. And you may be surprised because he was the starter in the 2024 Copa America. That was his first tournament. So even though he's 34 years old, he only has 5 caps for the national team since 2024. So a recent addition is Julio Gonzalez. And he plays for Puebla in Mexico now. That was a recent transfer. He was with UNAM Pumas in Mexico for 5 years before that. And as I said, a starter in the 2024 Gold Cup. However, over the period, he started 5 of their games, including those 3 in the Copa America. He was on the bench for 3 others. However, he was not selected for the last 7 matches. So it seems like he was a bit of a B-team selection there for the Copa America. We are going to see that some of their top players are missing for that tournament. But a bit of a surprise that he was the starter, and a bit of a surprise that he really hasn't been called up to the team since. Okay, and the final possible candidate there is Carlos Moreno, and he is 27 years old with no caps for Mexico, plays for Pachuca in Mexico since 2019. He got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2025. He didn't start any of the final 2 games, but he was on the bench for both. So pretty much replacing Guillermo Ochoa there. So when it's a kind of recent participation like that, we don't really know how strongly the team is considering them. All right, that is the goalkeeper situation for Mexico. We'll see who makes it onto the team in part 2. And meanwhile, let's move on to the defenders and the central defense there. So we have central defenders. Definite candidate in Johan Vasquez. And also in Cesar Montes. 2 definite candidates there. A likely candidate in Israel Reyes, although he did play more as a right back during this period. And then we have several possible candidates. The first, Victor Guzman, and then Jesus Orozco, and Ramon Juarez. Those are the candidates that we're looking at. We expect them to bring about 5 or 6 central defenders to the Cup. We'll deal with the less likely ones quickly here. Alexis Pena has 2 caps for the national team. He started 1 game over this period and was on the bench for 2, but then not selected for the last 10 matches. So it'd be a bit of a surprise to see Alexis Pena come back in. But let's go to the top and focus a bit more on the players we expect to come. So first of the 2 definite candidates, Johan Vasquez, has 31 caps for the national team and 1 goal since 2019. And Vasquez is 27 years old. He plays for Genoa in Italy since 2022 and with Unam Pumas before that. And he was part of the World Cup 2022 squad. That was his first tournament, just on the bench for that tournament. But in the Gold Cup in 2023 and the 2024 Copa America, he started all games. Over the recent period, Johan Vasquez has started 11 of their 15 games, and he was on the bench for 1 and injured for 2, and not selected for 1 other. That injury is not a concern now, so seems a definite candidate here, Johan Vasquez. And we move on to the second definite candidate, Cesar Montes. He's 28 years old and has 53 caps for the national team, also 1 goal since 2017. And Cesar Montes is with Lokomotiv Moscow in Russia since 2024. He had a brief stint with a couple of Mexican teams there, Almeria and Espanyol, but was with Monterrey in Mexico for 2015 to 2022. He's been part of squad since the 2017 Gold Cup, has Cesar Montes. He wasn't selected for the World Cup in 2018, but otherwise, also not the 2021 Gold Cup. But he has been selected for recent tournaments. The 20 oh my God, something dreadful happened. My headphones were pulled out. Anyway, he has been selected for recent tournaments. A starter in the 2022 World Cup. Didn't start in 2023 Gold Cup. He was on the bench for the first game, but gained a starting position after that. Correction there, he was not on the bench for the first game, and gained a starting position in the final stages. So from game 4 on there. Yeah, not on the bench for the whole group stage there. And finally, Cesar Montes, a starter in the 2024 Copa America. Since the beginning of 2024, he started 10 of their 15 games and was not selected for 4 matches on the bench for 1 game. So Cesar Montes, the likely partner of Johan Vasquez, so that's how it seems at this point. We do have a likely candidate, as I said, Israel Reyes, playing more as a right back, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Israel Reyes is 25 years old with 20 caps and 2 goals for Mexico since 2021, and he plays for Club America in Mexico since 2023. He was basically a bench player for the 2023 Gold Cup and the 2024 Copa America, so has yet to prove as a starter in the tournament. Over the recent period, he started 5 of their 15 games, did Israel Reyes, and he started 5, was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 4, and not selected for 5 matches. Okay, we move on to our 3 possible candidates. Victor Guzman is 23 years old with 5 caps for Mexico since 2023 and plays for Monterrey in Mexico. And he was on the bench for the 2023 Gold Cup, so he was selected, but not selected for the 2024 Copa America. A bit surprising that decision was. And in fact, in recent participation, he was off the team for 11 months and he came back in June, I believe, the pre-tournament friendlies there. And since then has started 2 of their remaining 12 games, but not selected for 9, including the last 5 matches. So actually, he's close to being a possible but unlikely player. I might move him down the list when we finish this section. The second possible candidate is Jesus Orozco, and he is 23 years old with 4 caps for Mexico since 2023 and plays for Cruz Azul in Mexico since 2025. That's a recent move then from Guadalajara in Mexico, where he played from 2020 to 2024. And he was named to the preliminary squad there for the 2023 Gold Cup and then made the squad for the 2024 Copa America. Didn't see any action in that tournament though. And over the period from the beginning of 2024, Jesus Orozco has started 2 of their 15 games, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 7. And not selected for 5 others, including the last 2 matches. But he certainly does seem a bit more likely than Victor Guzman there, so we'll move him ahead in the list. Finally, our last possible candidate there is Ramon Juarez, and he's new to the team, 24 years old, but no caps for Mexico, and he's been with Club America in Mexico since 2019. I believe he was called up to the preliminary squad. I don't make it clear in my notes here, but I believe that's the case. No, he was not. So Ramon Juarez, brand new, really, in terms of a tournament consideration. In fact, he returned after a 17-month absence in March 2025. Didn't start either of their remaining 2 games, but was on the bench for both. So we saw that Orozco and Guzman, neither of them was selected in the March 2025 games. So it looks like Ramon Juarez actually has a better chance with his recent call-ups, but we'll put him in the middle there. Let's go to the left back position. And here we have well, I'll just say something about the position first. If it is a 3-man back line, which Mexico rarely uses, then we're probably going to see the left and right backs push up to be wingers. On the other hand, though, they might use midfielders as the wingers there. But not a big story for Mexico because they only did it once during the period. So usually we do have a left back and a right back for Mexico. And the left back, we have a definite candidate and one of my favorite players, Jesus Gallardo. as a definite candidate. And then we have a likely candidate in Jesus Alberto Angulo, and a possible candidate in Brian Gonzalez, and then possible but unlikely, who we'll just cover here, Gerardo Arteaga, actually a pretty experienced player for Mexico. I won't go through his history, but he was part of the last 3 tournaments for them, and he did start 5 of their 15 games over the period since the start of 2021, as well as being subbed in for one and on the bench for one. But Gerardo Arteaga not selected for the last 7 matches, which pushes him down to possible but unlikely. He was a starter, though, in the 2024 Copa America, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see him come back into the picture. We also have 2 candidates who seem to be off the squad. Omar Campos. He last appeared for the national team in December 2023. And same is true, actually, of Luis Olivas, the other seemingly off the squad player. And that's as much as we'll say about them. But if they are selected for the final squad, we'll give a bit more detail on them. But we want to focus our detail on the players that are likely to make it here. And definite candidate, Jesus Gallardo, very likely. He is 31 years old with 103 caps for Mexico since 2016. Just 2 goals, even though he does go upfield as a winger quite a bit. He is with Toluca in Mexico now since 2024, but was with Monterrey in Mexico from 2018 to 2024. Gallardo has been part of teams since the 2017 Gold Cup, and really doesn't miss that much. The only tournament he missed, as I said, in the 2024 Copa America, was a bit of a B team that they sent. He was not there, which is why Gerardo Arteaga was the starter there. That's the only tournament he's missed in 2017, though. And since the start of 2023, Jesus Gallardo has started 6 of their 15 games, and he was on the bench for 2 and not selected for 7 others. But we did see 3 of those were the 2024 Copa America, not starting as much for Mexico as he had been in the past. We'll see if he kind of comes back strongly into the picture or whether he's drifting off the team a little bit here. But we do think he is a definite selection. And given that he's a definite selection, we think he'll probably come back into the picture. Next is the likely candidate, Jesus Alberto Angulo. He doesn't have any tournament experience for Mexico. Angulo is 27 years old with 19 caps for Mexico since 2018. So he's kind of fallen just short over the last 4 tournaments. He plays for Tigres Uanal in Mexico since 2022. And at least in the Gold Cup in 2021, we know he wasn't selected because he was part of the Olympic squad. But as I say, just seems to fall short of the cup. And even over the previous period, since the beginning of 2022, he's only started 3 of their 15 games, but he was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 2. And he was not selected for 8 matches. So you may be wondering why he is a likely candidate. The reason is because those 8 matches that he missed were the first 8 matches. So in other words, he's been selected for the last 7 matches, starting 3 and subbing in for 2 of them. So he's looking like the backup player, finally getting his chance here, Jesus Alberto Angulo. And the possible candidate, Brian Gonzalez, is 22 years old, and he has just one cap for Mexico since 2023. And he plays for Pachuca in Mexico since 2020. But he was selected for the 2024 Copa America, Brian Gonzalez. And even though he started none of their games since the start of 2024, he was on the bench for 5 of them. He was with the under-23 team for a couple of games and not selected for 8 matches, including the last 4. So possible candidate, Brian Gonzalez, with a bit of an outside chance there. Okay, let's move on to the right back position. And we have no definite or even likely candidates in this position. We go directly to possible candidates. I'm a bit surprised by this, but Jorge Sanchez is just a possible candidate here. Sorry, I'm having a bit of trouble with the graphics on the YouTube here. Jorge Sanchez, just a possible, and Julian Araujo, also a possible candidate here. We're going to actually, though, put Israel Reyes, who we introduced as a central defender. We're going to put him as a likely candidate here, because he's the one been playing it the most, as we'll see. And then we have a third possible candidate in Brian Garcia. And possible but unlikely candidate, Alan Mozo, was not selected for the last 5 matches. So we'll introduce him if he comes back into the picture. He did actually return to the team after a 5-year absence in 2024, but then dropped out again. A more experienced player is seemingly off the squad. That is Kevin Alvarez. He was part of the 2021 Gold Cup and 2022 World Cup squads, and health problems prevented him from participating in the Copa America there. So that makes October 2023 the last appearance of Kevin Alvarez, so seemingly off the squad. Also, Ricardo Chavez last appeared in December 2023. He has no tournament experience, and nor does Salvador Reyes, who's been in the picture actually for a few years here, but never selected for a tournament. Salvador Reyes last appearing in June of 2023. Okay, so let's go back and look at the more likely candidates. Well, we did introduce likely candidate Israel Reyes, and we'll tell you why we're putting him as a likely candidate when we get to the summary of the position. But let's look at the bios of the 3 possible candidates. Jorge Sanchez is 28 years old, has 47 caps and 2 goals for Mexico since 2019. And he moved to Cruz Azul in Mexico since 2024. Prior to that, he had been playing in Europe with Ajax in the Netherlands and then loaned out to Porto in Portugal from 2022 to 24, all of that, those 2 years in Europe. Jorge Sanchez was first selected tournament-wise for the World Cup in 2022. So 3 years after his first cap was selected for that tournament. Actually a starter there and in the following tournaments. And he was part of the Copa America there starting as well in 2024. Over the recent period, he started 6 of their 15 games since the beginning of 2024, subbed in for 1, on the bench for 1, but not selected for 7 matches, including the last 2 matches. So even though he was selected for the Copa America, that's a lot of matches that he was not selected for, and why we have him as just as a possible candidate here. Julian Araujo is 24 years old and is playing for Bournemouth in England. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead a bit. I'll give you his national team info first. 24 years old with 14 caps for Mexico since 2021. And now is the time to say he was with Bournemouth in England since 2024. I don't think he's starting for them, though. He was also with Barcelona in Spain from 2023 to 2024, more with their B team there. He was born in the USA and he did play for LA Galaxy prior to going over to Europe. Julian Araujo has been around since 2021, but the only tournament he was selected for was the 2023 Gold Cup, where he was the B team game was his only appearance. in that cup. It's surprising that he wasn't selected for the Copa America, but I guess Jorge Sanchez kind of took the starting position there. From the beginning of 2024, Araujo has started 2 of their 15 games, on the bench for 2. But he's been struggling with injury. He was out with 3 separate injuries for 10 of the matches. And that included a lack of fitness for the last 2 matches. So recovering from injury there in March 2025. But we don't think that will last until the cup here. So we're not putting an injury risk tag on him. So Julian Araujo, the second possible candidate there. And then the third possible candidate is Brian Garcia. And he is 28 years old with just 2 caps for Mexico since 2023, plays for Toluca in Mexico and was on the roster for the Copa America in 2024, his first tournament there, but didn't see any action in the tournament. From the start of 2024, he has started 1 of their 15 games, and he was on the bench for 4 and not selected for 10 others, including the last 7 matches, which is actually, I'm seeing a bit of inconsistency here because we put Alan Mozo as possible but unlikely, and he was only not selected for the last 5 matches. So I'm going to move Brian Garcia down even below Mozo because missed the last 7 matches. His kind of claim here is that he was selected for the Copa America in 2024, but we're not sure how much of a B team that was. Like, some of the players were and some weren't. So just a note on the structure of the midfield before we jump into the players here. Most of the main players here are listed as central midfielders, and that's right, as they do all play various positions in the midfield. But some of them do favour defensive or offensive, or favour left and right. For that reason, and to divide things up better, we're going to structure this a little bit differently, looking at defensive left and right midfielders before focusing on central midfielders. Here we saw in section 1 that they use a 4-2-3-1 about about half of the time. So that's 2 defensive midfielders. And a 4-3-3. So that's 1 central midfielder and a right and left midfielder. So a bit of variety to go through here. And we're going to begin actually with a versatile midfielder here. I'm seeing that I don't have the graphic for that, so I'm just gonna create it here. Our versatile midfielder is Luis Chavez, who moves around the midfield quite a bit. He's appearing in various positions over the period here. And Luis Chavez is 29 years old and has 39 caps and 4 goals for Mexico since 2022. So fairly new. He is playing for Dynamo Moscow in Russia since 2023 and was with Pachuca in Mexico before that. His first tournament was the World Cup in 2022, and he was a starter in that tournament and in the 2 tournaments following. So the 2023 Gold Cup and the 2024 Copa America. Luis Chavez started 8 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, so only about half of them. He was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2, and not selected for 2 others. That's not adding up to 15, but we'll leave it at that. Anyway, Luis Chavez, a definite candidate here. I haven't even put his name on the list here. But a definite candidate. So perhaps it was more than 8 starts since the beginning, but we won't worry about that too much. Okay, let's go to defensive midfielders then, and we have Edson Alvarez as a definite candidate here. We saw that sometimes he does move back into central defense where he used to play. and has even played as a right defender. So Edson Alvarez, we'll go through the names before we take a look at these players. The next one is Eric Lira. He is a possible candidate as a defensive midfielder. And then two possible but unlikely candidates. One of them is veteran Andre Guardado, still in the picture, but not really, as I'll tell you. I'll just cover that quickly here. Wow, 182 caps for the national teams for Andre Guardado. He is 39 years old right now and has a long history with the team ever since the 2006 World Cup. He's still playing club soccer. He's with León in Mexico now since 2024, and he was with Real Betis in Spain for quite a while before that. And Andre Guardado actually came back. He announced his retirement in May of 2023, but he did come back after an almost 2-year absence in October 2024. He started one game of their remaining 5 there, and then was not selected for the last 4. So I have the feeling that there's a bit of a testimonial match, or a bit of an honorarium for him. He actually subbed out 19 minutes into that excuse me, just a sec. Yeah, subbed out 19 minutes into that one game he started. So we don't really think he's a serious candidate for this cup. The other one at the possible but unlikely level is Fidel Ambris, and he has not been selected for their last 5 matches. So not completely out of the picture, and we'll give more information on him if he's selected for the final squad. So just 2 candidates then to go into a bit more detail on here. The first one, Edson Alvarez, the definite candidate, and he is not as old as one might think, just 28 years old. He has 85 caps and 5 goals for Mexico since 2017, and he's the captain of the team now. Edson Alvarez plays for West Ham in England since 2023 and was with Ajax in the Netherlands before that. His first tournament was the Gold Cup in 2017. He's been part of every tournament since then, not always a starter. For example, in the World Cup in 2018, I guess he was a sub in game 1 and then became a starter. So usually a starter up until the 2024 Copa America, where he was captain of the team. He started game 1 there, but actually got injured 30 minutes in, and that was the end of his tournament there. But Edson Alvarez is back in action now. He started 10 of their 15 games since the start of 2024, and he was on the bench for 3 and injured for 2 matches, those 2 in the Copa America. So Edson Alvarez, a definite candidate, should they use a defensive midfielder. Otherwise, he's likely to appear as a central midfielder. The possible candidate is Eric Lika. He's 25 years old and has 6 caps for the national team since 2021, and he plays for Cruz Azul in Mexico since 2022. He was actually off the team during the Copa America there. He's kind of been a candidate for the last 3 tournaments, but never selected. So the reason, if you're looking at the YouTube version of this, you'll see that some players' names are in grey rather than in black text. And that means they haven't been involved in a tournament, and that's the case for Eric Lira. He returned after a 9-month absence in September of 2024, and since that time started 2 of their 7 games and was on the bench for 9 others. So almost a likely candidate here, Eric Lira. And that's all we have in terms of players we want to introduce. Okay, that's defensive midfielders, and I believe we're moving on to left midfielders and right midfielders before we look at the central midfield candidates. And I'm just fixing up the graphics on the YouTube here. So again, the 4-3-3 formation is the only one that uses a left and right midfielder and was used a third of the time over this period. But as we just said, more towards the beginning. In fact, this formation was not used after the Copa America in the summer of 2024. Nevertheless, we are putting a couple of candidates here. And the first one is just at the possible level. It's Diego Lainez here. And we have possible but unlikely Angel Sepulveda, possible but unlikely. So I'll just deal with him fairly quickly here. He has 9 caps and 2 goals for Mexico since 2016, and he is 34 years old now. Only actually played in one tournament, Sepulveda. That was the Gold Cup in 2017. So really kind of in and out. In fact, he returned after a 7-year absence in November of 2024. Didn't start any games, but was subbed in for one and on the bench for one, and then not selected for the last 2 matches. So Sepulveda, an outside chance here. Finally, we have seemingly off the squad Eric Aguirre, and he last appeared for the national team in March of 2024. He's never actually been selected for a tournament, even though he's been around since 2018, Eric Aguirre. So again, more information if we see him selected for the final squad. Let's go back. So Diego Lainez is the only one we'll kind of give a bit of biographical information on. And he is 25 years old, and he has 29 caps and 3 goals for Mexico since 2018. However, it took until 2023 for him to be selected for a tournament. He was selected for the Gold Cup that year, and made 2 appearances as a substitute in that tournament. He wasn't selected for the 2024 Copa America, though, and his recent participation actually has him returning after a 14-month absence in September of 2024, so after the Copa America there. Didn't start any games, but he was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 2. And then not selected for the last 2 matches. So he is a possible candidate. Okay, let's move on to right midfield. The story is kind of the same. They use the position about a third of the time. Here we have 2 possible candidates. The first one, Eric Sanchez. He's coded as a right midfielder, as is Rodrigo Huescas. We've met him earlier because he started as a right back once. And then we have Hector Herrera, seemingly off the squad, a real veteran for the team. And he did appear once in this period as a right midfielder, Hector Herrera. We'll dispense with his biography here. And we won't go into too much detail because he has a long biography with the team. He's 35 years old with 105 caps for Mexico from 2012 to 2023. So I said he had 1 appearance. That must have been in late 2023 because his last appearance for the team was on the bench in September of 2023. So actually the World Cup in 2022 was his last tournament for the national team. He's been kind of slowly drifting off there. Hector Herrera seemingly off the team. So let's go back and look at the 2 possible candidates here. Eric Sanchez, pretty versatile himself, as a lot of the midfielders are. He played as a central attacking midfielder in 1 game, and even as a co-forward in 1 game as well. So Eric Sanchez is 26 years old, 29 caps and 3 goals for Mexico since 2021, and plays for Club America since 2024, and a long time, 8 years with Pachuca in Mexico before that. Eric Sanchez's first tournament was the 2021 Gold Cup, but he wasn't selected for the World Cup in 2022. But came back for the 2023 Gold Cup and the recent Copa America in 2024. And he started 2 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, as well as subbing in for 2 and on the bench for 1. but he was not selected for 10 others, including the last 7 matches. So almost unlikely given that recent participation. Let's look at Rodrigo Huescas, who is 22 years old and has 2 caps for Mexico since 2024, so very new to the team. Here he plays for Copenhagen in Denmark since 2024, moving from Cruz Azul in Mexico. That was also his youth club. Um, so he was not selected for the 2024 Copa America there. He started one of their 15 games since the start of 2024, and that was as a right back. He subbed in for 1 and was on the bench for 4, injured for 2, and with the under 23 team for 4 matches. So he only 3 matches that he was not selected for. So we should actually probably move him ahead of Eric Sanchez here, given the recent participation of both of them. Let's move on to central midfield and the candidates here. And part of the reason we moved other players around was to thin out this section a bit, because for Mexico, most of the players are coded as central midfielders. Even Edson Alvarez, which we can say pretty firmly as a defensive midfielder. Luis Chavez, the versatile midfielder, also coded as a central midfielder. But on our list here, we have definite candidate Luis Romo, who we've talked about. We have Orbelin Pineda, who does play in central midfield a little bit, but we've recoded him as a central attacking midfielder during this period, and we'll talk about him there. He's going to be a definite candidate also, but the second definite candidate on our list here is Carlos Alberto Rodriguez, who also has played as a central attacking midfielder. So a little difficult to organize these players. We have a player seemingly possible but unlikely in Fernando Beltran. In fact, we have a lot of players in this category. So I'll just kind of go through their bios as I name them, without too much detail. So Fernando Beltran, 11 caps for Mexico since 2020, but has not been selected for the last 6 matches. Rodrigo Lopez, new to the team since 2023 with 2 caps, and I'll just possible but unlikely means they really haven't appeared much recently. Andres Montano, 1 cap since 2024 for him. Marcel Ruiz, also 1 cap, that since 2023. Obed Vargas and Diego Gomez. So I'm kind of avoiding detail here because there are so many candidates here. Okay, and I've messed up my graphics here, so I'm just fixing them up. There we go. That was a good fix. We also have seemingly off the squad, Hector Herrera, who we talked about earlier, but he is also coded as a central midfielder, but we moved him to right midfield. And also seemingly off the squad, Alan Cervantes. So he has 5 caps for Mexico since 2021, was part of the 2021 Gold Cup, but not part of any of the 3 tournaments after that. And yet he has been around, but he last appeared, Alan Cervantes, in June 2023. Okay, so of any of those, how many? 6 possible but unlikely players come back into the picture. We'll give it a little, we'll give some biographical information there if they're selected. Meanwhile, we'll just focus on our 2 definite candidates here. Luis Romo is 30 years old and has 56 caps and 4 goals for Mexico since 2019. He has recently moved to Guadalajara in Mexico since 2025, bouncing around a little bit actually, was with his 3rd stint with Cruz Azul in 2024, and then he was with Monterrey in Mexico from 2022 to 2024. For the 2021 Gold Cup, he might have been selected, but was instead chosen for the Olympic squad there. And his first tournament then was the World Cup in 2022 when he was on the bench. but he was a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup, and after Edson Alvarez got injured in the recent Copa America, he got the starting position, replacing him there. So Luis Romo has started 7 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, but he was subbed in for 7, so just one match that he was not selected for. So that's why we consider him a definite candidate, because he is always selected, almost always selected recently. The other definite candidate is Carlos Alberto Rodriguez, and he also has a long history with Mexico. I'm just finding my place here. 57 caps, actually, so one more than Romo. And he is 28 years old and has been with Mexico since 2019. And he's with Cruz Azul in Mexico since 2022, and also played for Monterrey in Mexico. So the same 2 teams as Luis Romo there. Rodriguez has been part of tournaments since the 2019 Gold Cup. And wait a minute, he was not selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, but he was for the World Cup in 2022 and the Gold Cup in 2023 and the Copa America in 2024. Not a starter in any of those tournaments, though. In fact, the only tournament he was a starter in, Carlos Alberto Rodriguez, was in 2019 Gold Cup, and he lost his position, lost his starting position in that cup. So more of a backup player. Over the period here, he has started 4 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, and he has subbed in for 4, but was on the bench for 6. So like Luis Romo, just one match that he was not selected for. So we expect him to be selected, but probably not a starter, Carlos Alberto Rodriguez. We move on upfield, and we're actually going to create a new category for Pineda here, a versatile attacker. So I'm just going to set that up on the graphic here. Versatile attacker. So our versatile midfielder was Luis Chavez. Orbelin Pineda, our versatile attacker. And he did play, Pineda played as a left attacking midfielder in the 2023 Gold Cup, but during this period, mostly as a central attacking midfielder in that 4-2-3-1 formation. And we've also seen him play in various positions in the midfield. So let's deal with him. He's at the definite level, Orbelin Pineda, and he's the only candidate in this category of versatile attackers. So we can jump right to his biography. He's 29 years old, Orbelin Pineda, and has been with Mexico since 2016 with 79 caps and 11 goals. He's playing for AEK Athens in Greece since 2023, and with Celta de Vigo before that. He moved from Mexico in 2020, late 2021, having played with Cruz Azul for a couple of years there. Been around, actually was a consideration, it seems, named to the preliminary squad for the 2015 Gold Cup. So that's kind of his first appearance. Got his first cap in 2016, but it took until the 2017 Gold Cup for him to get his first tournament selection. He wasn't selected for the World Cup in 2018, but has been selected for every tournament after that. Including the most recent one, the Copa America in 2024. So Orbelin Pineda, over the recent period, has started 12 of their 15 games, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. So just one match that he was not selected for, and Orbelin Pineda, a definite candidate. And even though we have him as a versatile attacker, he's even more ubiquitous than that. And we see him in the midfield sometimes as well. So expecting to see him at the Cup. Let's move to our usual categorization. And actually, Soccer Files here has kind of come to see, has come to organize the forward line this way, the more attacking line this way. So we have a position called left attacker or left attacking midfield. And it depends on the formation. So sometimes it's a winger or an attacking winger. If you think of the 4-4-2 formation, it'll be the winger further upfield. In a 4-2-3-1 formation, it could be an attacking midfielder or a left forward, even in a 4-3-3 formation. And that'll be the same on the right side. So maybe oversimplifying things a bit, but we found it actually works quite well here. So the left attacker position or left attacking midfield position, anywhere from a winger to a forward there. So Mexico primarily uses a 4-2-3-1, in which case it would be an attacking midfielder, or a 4-3-3, in which case it would be a forward of a three-man front line. And of course, that being mirrored on the right side. Okay, let's look at the candidates here. We have a definite candidate in Cesar Huerta. And I should say Orbelin Pineda is also a candidate over here on the left, but we've dealt with him already. We have two likely candidates. The first is Julian Quinones, and the second is Alexis Vega. We have a possible candidate in Irving Lozano, a bit of a surprise, that one, to me, that he's so kind of low down in the pecking order there. And then we have possible but unlikely candidate Jordan Carrillo. So I'll deal with him quickly here. Jordan Carrillo is 24 years old and has been with Mexico since 2022, but only 2 caps in that time. He's never been selected for a tournament, and he actually returned after a 2-year absence in June of 2024, started one of their games and was on the bench for one. And he hasn't been selected for the last 4 matches. So still a chance of being selected, Jordan Carrillo. And if he is, we'll talk about him more. But let's look at the more likely candidates here. So going back to the top, the definite candidate, Cesar Huerta, and he is 25 years old. Since 2023 with Mexico, 17 caps and 3 goals. And he recently moved from Mexico to play for Anderlecht in Belgium since 2025. He was with Unam Pumas before that. And he was selected for the Copa America in 2024. He was just a substitute in that game, but actually he did go on to start game 3 there. Over the period, he started 6 of their 15 games since the start of 2024 and subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 1. So Cesar Huerta not selected for just 1 match, and that was the first match in 2024. So regularly selected nowadays, and Cesar Huerta, a definite candidate. The first of the likely candidates is Julian Quinones. He is 28 years old and has been with Mexico since 2023 and has 11 caps and 2 goals. He's actually been playing in Kuwait with Qadsia in Kuwait since 2024 and was with Club America prior to that. And he was selected, not only selected for the 2024 Copa America, but started as the left attacking midfielder in that tournament. In fact, he played all 3 of those left attacker positions as a winger, attacking midfielder, and a left forward there. And Quinones started 7 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, and he was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 4. So just 2 matches that he was not selected for. Julian Quinones, a likely candidate. Alexis Vega is our other likely candidate, and he is 28 years old with 37 caps and 6 goals for Mexico since 2019. And he's with his second stint with Toluca in Mexico since 2024. He was with Guadalajara for 5 years before that. and has been selected on and off, really. So not selected for the 2021 and 23 Gold Cups. In both cases, though, there was a reason. He was with the Olympic squad in 2021 and was injured for the 2023 Gold Cup. Otherwise, he's been selected for all the tournaments since the 2019 Gold Cup, including a starter in the 2022 World Cup. Just a sub in the recent Copa America, though, and has only started 2 of their 15 games from the start of 2024. But he was subbed in for 7 and on the bench for 1. So 5 matches that he wasn't selected for. But we do consider Alexis Vega a likely candidate to be selected for the upcoming Cup. Finally, we have the possible candidate, Irving Lozano. Again, I'm a bit surprised he's just at the possible level here. Irving Lozano is 30 years old. He's been with Mexico since 2016 with 70 caps and 18 goals. And he recently moved to San Diego FC in the United States since 2025, but was with PSV Eindhoven actually for 2 stints with them since 2017. But he did go to Napoli for 4 years in the middle of those two stints with the Netherlands. With PSV Eindhoven. So Irving Lozano has been with the team since, or been selected for tournaments since the 2016 Copa America. It's actually on the preliminary squad for the 2015 Gold Cup. And he has missed a couple of tournaments, actually quite a few. The 2015, 2017, 2019, and 2023 Gold Cups. He was injured for the last 2 of those. He seems to struggle with knee injuries, so was out of 2019 and 2023 Gold Cups with a knee injury. Also not selected for the Copa America in 2024. But he has been part of 4 tournaments, including both of the last 2 World Cups, Irving Lozano. Recently, though, he returned from a 6-month injury in October of 2023, and he appeared to seize back his starting position after starting the final of the Nations League final in March of 2024, but then was not selected since then. So I have him as a possible candidate just because he's a pretty big name, but actually has been off the team for the last year. So maybe I'm being a bit generous, and he's really a possible but unlikely candidate, Irving Lozano. I hope to see him again, though. Let's move over to the right side. So again, this could be a right winger attacking midfielder, or right forward, just like on the left. And we have no candidate at the definite level, but at the likely level, Roberto Alvarado. We'll come back to him. We just mentioned Uriel Antuna. He's just at the possible level, so that's a bit of a surprise too. And alongside him at the possible level, Jordi Cortizo. At the possible but unlikely level, we have Osiel Herrera, so I'll just quickly talk about him here. He has not appeared for the national team since the 2023 Gold Cup. However, he was on the preliminary squad for the 2025 Nations League finals. Didn't make the cut there, but it shows that he is still in the picture, whereas he seemed to be out of it. So Osiel Herrera, possible but unlikely. And then Alfonso Gonzalez, seemingly off the squad. He last appeared in December 2023. Let's look at the main candidates then. Roberto Alvarado. It's actually coded as a forward, secondarily as a left midfielder, but we've moved him to the right attacking position here because that the narrative best suits him. That's where he seems to have been recently. Roberto Alvarado is 27 years old and has 51 caps and 5 goals for Mexico since 2018. And his career has been in Mexico with Guadalajara since 2022. All of his other teams in Mexico also. Roberto Alvarado's first tournament was the 2019 Gold Cup, but he wasn't selected for the 2021 Gold Cup. Otherwise, he was selected for all tournaments since the 2022 Gold Cup, the 2022 World Cup, the 2023 Gold Cup, and the 2024 Copa America, selected for all of them, but not a starter in any of them. He has started 6 of their 15 games since the start of 2022, as 2024, and he has subbed in for 1 and been on the bench for 5. So just 3 matches that Roberto Alvarado hasn't been selected for recently, and thus a likely candidate to make the squad. That's not the case for Uriel Antuna, who's not been selected recently. We'll get to that at the end of his bio. He is 28 years old now and has been with Mexico since 2019. Antuna has 66 caps and 14 goals, and he's with Tigres in Mexico and was with Cruz Azul before that. He actually was on the squad for Manchester City in England there. From 2017 to 2019. I'm not sure he played any games for them. I should make a note on that. But he was loaned out to teams during his time at Manchester City. Uriel Antuna has been part of tournaments since the 2019 Gold Cup, part of all tournaments except for the 2021 Gold Cup, where he was selected for the Olympic squad instead. And he was a starter in the 2024 Copa America recently, but lost his starting position in game 3 there. Well, they didn't reach the final, so that's just one game we're talking about. Uriel Antuna has started 5 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, subbed in for 2, but not selected for 8, including the last 7 matches. So kind of like Irving Lozano there, and equally surprising. Really, we may be putting him as a possible but unlikely candidate. Let's see if the next candidate, Jordi Cortizo, should be put ahead of him, and I think I forgot to put him on the list. Anyway, possible candidate, Jordi Cortizo, and he is 29 years old, just 5 caps for the national team. His first appearance was in 2023, and so that makes the Copa America 2024 the only tournament available to him, and he was selected for that, Jordi Cortizo. But over the recent period, he hasn't started any of their games since the beginning of 2024, but he was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 3. As well as being injured for 2. So, yeah, he too not a very convincing candidate over here. And so you're probably anxious to get to the summary to see who actually has been playing over here. So I'll just summarize the candidates here. Likely candidate Roberto Alvarado, and possible candidates Uriel Antuna and Jordi Cortizo, but a bit at the lower end if possible, if truth be told. So Uriel Antuna dominated the position in the 2023 Gold Cup, and in the period after that. He was sometimes replaced, but only by players in single appearances or in out-of-position appearances, like the ubiquitous Orbelin Pineda. By degrees, though, it happened more often, and Roberto Alvarado came into the position more often. And he was the one who played in the March 2025 Nations League semi-final and final. But we can't say yet that Alvarado has a firm hold on the position. So it looked a bit undecided at the moment as it transitioned from Antuna to Alvarado. That transition still really not complete, it seems. Okay, we go on to our last position in the midfield here, central attackers. And again, Orbelin Pineda has been playing as a central attacking midfielder, but we covered him as a versatile attacker. So our first candidate here is only at the possible level, and it is Efrain Alvarez. And we have three candidates. The second is Marcelo Flores, and the third is Alexis Gutierrez. So three possible candidates here, and then one seemingly, not one possible but unlikely, that Sebastian Cordova has never been involved in a tournament despite being with Mexico since 2019, and has not been selected for 12 matches in this period, including the last four. So we consider him possible but unlikely. But let's go back to our three possible candidates and introduce them in a bit more detail. Efrain Alvarez is 23 years old, and he has been with Mexico since 2021, 5 caps and 1 goal. He plays for Tijuana in Mexico since 2023 and with LA Galaxy in the USA. Before that, that's actually his youth club also, because he was born in the USA, Efrain Alvarez. He was selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, but hasn't been selected for any of the 3 tournaments after that. And in fact, he returned after a 15-month absence in June 2024 to start one of their remaining 13 games. And he was on the bench for 2 matches. Those were the last 2 matches, though. So, yeah, kind of really on and off the team. He's also spent some time with the under-23 team. So just a possible candidate there, Efrain Alvarez. The second possible candidate is Marcelo Flores. He's the only one here, actually, who has tournament experience. No, I got to change Efrain Alvarez to black because he did participate in the 2021 Gold Cup there. So Marcelo Flores, anyway, is 22 years old and has 3 caps for Mexico since his first in 2021. He also was born outside of Mexico, born in Canada here, and plays for Tigres in Mexico since 2023. He was with Arsenal in England, Marcelo Flores. Again, I don't have a note as to whether he actually played for them. I don't think he did because he was loaned to Real Oviedo in Spain during that period. But he was 3 years with the Arsenal youth team there. His first tournament is in the 2024 Copa America there. He was just a bench player and actually had returned after a 2-year absence in June 2024 to play in that tournament. He didn't start any of their games, any of their 12 games since then, but he was on the bench for 7 and then not selected for the last 5. So kind of in and out recently. Excuse me, Marcelo Flores, the second possible candidate. The last one is Alexis Gutierrez, brand new to the team since 2024 with just 1 cap. Even though he's 25 years old, and he's been with Cruz Azul in Mexico since 2019. But he got his first cap for the national team in November of 2024, and he started 1 of their 3 remaining games, so it was not selected for the last 2 in March of 2025. So we'll have to see what becomes of him, and indeed all 3 of these players, because they're just possible candidates. All right, that's it for the midfield, and we go on to forwards. And we don't actually have any players coded as secondary strikers, so we'll just be dealing with forwards here. But a quick word on the position. When we do look at forwards, we only look at formations with a 1 or 2 man forward line. If it's a 3-man forward line, as in a 4-3-3 formation, we've been considering those outside forwards to be left and right attackers. So we'll have covered them in the previous section. So let's look at the candidates we have. We have Raul Jimenez back in the picture here. So I'm going to put him as a definite candidate here because of his heroics in recent games. We also have Santiago Jimenez as a definite candidate. Roberto Alvarado is coded as a forward, but we moved him to right attacker and dealt with him there. Henry Martin is a possible candidate, and that's, oh no, we have Guillermo Martinez also as a possible candidate, and that's it. We're not gonna, we don't have any possible but unlikely or seemingly off the squad players to talk about here. So let's go back and look. Raul Jimenez, he has been with the team since 19. Well, no, he was born in 1991. He's been with the team since 2013 with 112 caps and 39 goals. So he's been in England for a while, Fulham since 2023, and Wolverhampton in since 2019 to 2023. And if you recall, he was with Benfica in Portugal before that. He has been part of tournaments since the 2023 Confederations Cup, actually, and he was with the Olympic team in 2012. So a long history with him, but he hasn't made some tournaments, the 2015 and 2017 Gold Cups. He was not selected for those. Also, the 2021 Gold Cup, but I think that was actually before his skull fracture. So 2020, the 2023 Gold Cup. Anyway, I can't remember exactly when that was, but that has interfered. And he was a part of a lot of tournaments, 2018 World Cup and the 2022 World Cup too, but not selected actually since the World Cup for tournaments. Again, his skull fracture playing a role in that. And it really does seem like that skull fracture took him a while to overcome, as you can well imagine. Oh, I see here that that was in December 2020 when that took place. So it would have affected the 2021 Gold Cup most of all. But it affected in terms of him not really making it back to the national team in a big way for the 2023 Gold Cup and even the 2024 Copa America. However, he came back in full force in the 2024-25 Nations League finals, semi-final and final. He was the hero of both games, so that gives him great credibility coming into this cup. So Raul Jimenez, I'll just cover his recent history. He returned after an 11-month absence in October 2024, started all 5 of their remaining games, and as I said, was a hero in the most recent game. So Raul Jimenez, we consider him a definite candidate here. Santiago Jimenez is 24 years old and has been with Mexico since 2021 with 34 caps and 4 goals. He recently moved to AC Milan, Santiago Jimenez. He was with Feyenoord in the Netherlands before that for 3 years, and in Mexico before that. He has didn't gain selection for the 2022 World Cup, but has been a part of all of the tournaments since. Oh, well, that's only 2 tournaments, the Gold Cup in 2023 and the Copa America. So in short, he's been the starter, and now that's going to be challenged by Raul Jimenez. He was a starter in the 2024 Copa America. So Jimenez started 8 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, and he was subbed in for 2, but he was out with 2 separate injuries for 4 matches there on the bench for 1 other. But there's no match that he wasn't selected for other than the ones he was injured for. So Santiago Jimenez, despite being behind Raul Jimenez as a starter probably now, is a definite candidate and is always kind of in the mix. Not so true for Henry Martin, who's really in and out with the national team. He's the first of our 2 possible players. Henry Martin is 33 years old now, with 46 caps and 11 goals for Mexico since 2015. So been around for a long time, but in fact, the World Cup in 2022 was Martin's first tournament. And he was selected for the Gold Cup in 2023 as well, but not for the Copa America. in 2024. So Henry Martin has started 2 of their 15 games from the beginning of 2024, as well as subbing into 3. But there's 10 matches that he wasn't selected for, including the last 2. So definitely getting edged out of the picture, as he kind of always has been. Henry Martin, I don't know if I said his club. So he's with Club America in Mexico since 2018. His whole career has been in Mexico. So a possible candidate, Henry Martin. And the other possible candidate is Guillermo Martinez. And he is 30 years old, but just 8 caps and 2 goals for the national team since 2023. So a real latecomer there. He's with UNAM Pumas in Mexico since 2024. But was with Puebla in Mexico, has actually played for quite a few Mexican teams, bouncing around a lot there. He was selected, Guillermo Martinez, for the 2024 Copa America, where he subbed into all 3 games. But in terms of starts, he's only started 1 of their 15 games from the start of 2024. He was subbed in for 6 and on the bench for 2, though, and not selected for 4 others. But that does include the last 3 matches. So Guillermo Martinez, recent participation is a bit of a question mark. Martinez did start 4 of their 5 experimental games, and we haven't been factoring in those experimental games much. So very much a B team player. But that does bring us to the end of section 2, a very long section because Mexico always has a lot of players to deal with. And we move on to section 3. Welcome new listeners, actually, for section 3 here, which we're also releasing as a short version of part 1 on Mexico's players. For you guys, in the full version, we introduced the candidate and the candidates and their likelihood of making the final squad. And we also talked about who's been occupying each position. So for those just listening to the short version, you're welcome to go and look at the full version for the reasons for our predictions here. And for those who have watched part 1, this is basically just a review summary. We're not going to concern ourselves with predicting starters at this point, but we're going to do that in part 2. So here we're going to review the, it's not a review of starters, it's a review of candidates. We're going to review any injuries that we are aware of and any closing thoughts that we have. So let's go back to the top of our list and review it. We begin with the manager. So we have outgoing manager. Let me get the graphics right here. We have outgoing manager Jaime Lozano, who led them through the previous 2 tournaments, but was let go after the miserable 2024 Copa America. Now we have Javier Aguirre in his 3rd stint as Mexico manager, leading them through this tournament. Or we consider him likely to definite. We don't think they'll change him before. Goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Luis Malagon and a likely candidate in Raul Rangel, and then possible candidates in Guillermo Ochoa, Julio Gonzalez, and Carlos Moreno. So there is a chance of veteran Guillermo Ochoa coming back into the squad. For defenders, we look at the central defense with definite candidates Johan Vasquez and Cesar Montes. So definite, by the way, here means that we definitely think they'll be selected for the final squad. That's what we're talking about here. Likely is Israel Reyes, although he may play as a right back. And then possible candidates Jesus Orozco, Ramon Juarez, and Victor Guzman. Those are the main candidates. At left back, we have a definite candidate in Jesus Gallardo and a likely candidate in Jesus Alberto Angulo, and a possible candidate there in Brian Gonzalez. At the right back position, as we said, central defender, Israel Reyes looks like the most likely candidate at this point, but we also have possible candidates Jorge Sanchez and Julian Araujo. So Jorge Sanchez is kind of the first of 3 players who it's a bit surprising to see at the possible level and not a little bit higher when we get to right attacker and left attacker. We'll meet the other two. Of course, for all of these positions, we have some possible but unlikely players and players who are seemingly off the squad, but might surprise us and come back, but we're not introducing them in this review. Defensive or with the midfield in general is a bit messy for Mexico. Most of them are coded as central midfielders, but they play all over the place. So we tried to kind of parse it out here a little bit. So we put Luis Chavez, a versatile midfielder. He's a definite candidate. For defensive midfield, the top candidate there is Captain Edson Alvarez, but we also have a possible candidate in Eric Lira, who has no tournament experience, and that's why his name is in light gray on the YouTube graphic there. We also separated out left midfielders and right midfielders to try to harness this situation. So we end up with possible candidate Diego Lainez as a left midfielder, and on the right, possible candidates Rodrigo Huescas and Eric Sanchez. Yes, and then central midfielders, we have definite candidates Luis Romo and Carlos Alberto Rodriguez, probably more of a substitute role for him, though. Attacking midfielders, if they use the 4-2-3-1 formation, we think that is a definite candidate Orbelin Pineda, although he might appear kind of anywhere in the midfield or even attacking midfield, really. Orbelin Pineda, he's the only one there, though. Oh, no, we put him as a versatile attacker because he might appear anywhere. On the left attackers, that would include left attacking winger, left attacking midfielder, or even left forward in a 4-3-3 formation. We have a definite candidate, at least to make the squad, in Cesar Huerta, and two likely candidates, Julian Quinones and Alexis Vega. We need a bit more light to be shed to see who's going to be the starter. But again, we're not concerning ourselves with that here. We also have a possible candidate in Irving Lozano, which is a bit of a surprise to me, but there we have it. Based on his recent participation, we could only put him at the possible level. For right attackers, we have no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Roberto Alvarado, and then possible candidates in Uriel Antuna and Jordi Cortizo. Uriel Antuna just at the possible level, also a bit of a surprise to me, but hasn't participated that much recently. Central attackers, where's Orbelin Pineda here? He's probably the most likely to be at least a starter in that position, but we dealt with him as a versatile attacker. We're left with three possible candidates here, Efrain Alvarez, Marcelo Flores, and Alexis Gutierrez. And then in the forward line, we have no candidates coded as secondary strikers. So we have just the forwards, two definite candidates there in Raul Jimenez and Santiago Jimenez. And then we go no candidates at the likely level. We go to possible level for Henry Martin and Guillermo Martinez. Okay, so we will get more clarification on this, perhaps from the two friendlies before the tournament. So we're going to do part two when we know who is selected for the preliminary and final squad, and maybe get more insight into who is going to be starters. The other things we're doing in this closing section is a review of injuries, and actually there are none for Mexico. No players on the injury list to keep an eye on. So any injury concerns will be the ones between now and then. And we'll talk about that in part two. We do have some closing thoughts. I'll just save them for after we preview part two. So in part two, we're going to go through this list again and tell you which players made the preliminary and final squad. We'll be focusing a bit more on predicting who the starters are there too. We'll tell you who are the notable non-selections, who are the surprise inclusions and new players, and then we'll give any updates on injury up to that point. And yes, the closing thoughts here. I do want to talk about the possibility, because we have heard wind of teams not sending their best players to the tournament. So that might make all of our predictions here nonsense. But that is sometimes the case for the Gold Cup, especially the bigger teams. Actually, the top teams here have had an international tournament every year since 2021, which is a big burden on the players. The clubs certainly don't like it to have their players busy during the off season. Having said that, though, we think it would be logical for teams who are in the Cup or with ambitions to be in the 2026 World Cup to use this tournament as what's really their final good chance to prepare for the World Cup. Especially Mexico, Canada, and USA have no qualifying to be done for the Cup. So, this tournament is a good chance to kind of settle their squad and start to make some decisions. But it remains to be seen whether they see it that way. Because we have heard commentators say that we're not going to be seeing their best players at this tournament. Anyway, in this podcast, we can only outline the players that we would expect to see at the Cup. Or their top players. If teams don't send their top players, at least we'll know who's missing. I've often said that a good fan knows who the players are on the field, but a real fan knows the players who are not on the field. So there we have it. We'll see you in early June for part two, and enjoy your soccer. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.